All right. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. My name's Nick, and I'm with the Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit, and we're proud and happy to have with us Julie Slomski. And I also have with me Ann Conti, and Ann Conti is our career readiness facilitator at IU5. And we are proud to have a partnership with the Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit, but I'm sorry, a partnership with the Northwest PA Job Connect. That's part of the reason why we're here today. And we want to hear a little bit from Julie, as she is the COVID-19 response leader from Logistics Plus, and you guys are housed in Erie, Pennsylvania. But we're going to have a conversation here for about 10 or 15 minutes, and we're going to turn it over to all of you to give you guys an opportunity to ask Julie any questions about her profession, her company, etc. So, hey, Julie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got where you are, as well as what does Logistics Plus do?
For sure. And Nick and Ann, thank you so much for having me here this morning. I really appreciate the opportunity, and hello to everyone. It's so exciting because Logistics Plus, started off, it's just a basic freight forwarding company. Our CEO, Jim Berlin, he's a truck driver. He said, once a truck driver, always a truck driver. And he had an opportunity when then General Electric was outsourcing their logistics. He and a few of his buddies that he worked with there, they said, let's try to start up this logistics company. And it's amazing how it's grown. So he's just working, he's based in Jamestown, New York is where he resided. So they traveled to and from Erie every day. And then eventually he had bought Union Station. It's of course, that beautiful building there by 14th and Peach going over to Sass. It's the one with all the flags on top that we have right now. And the flags are pretty cool because they basically, demonstrate either countries that we have offices in or have employees that are coming from those countries. So it's so cool because it started off as a small company that just blew up into just, a really larger organization. We have folks, again, all throughout the US, all throughout the world. And that's kind of where we came into this COVID-19 response. The beginning of the pandemic, the CEO, like I said, Jim Berlin, who's very bold, we had some conversations with a few folks and said, you know what, maybe we can help. I mean, we know logistics. We're not very, familiar with, the medical side of things, but let's see how we can help. So we work with our partners in China. We have an office there and a couple great partners there, and said, how can we import some of these masks and face shields and PPE that's needed? And the rest is a short history, is just quickly jumping on and being able to secure those items. So we started off with just the basic surgical masks, the KN95 masks, face shields, and then we had worked with different contracts with frontline workers from different states and their departments of health to public health and safety side of things with health departments and law enforcement, and providing PPE to them. And we still do that today. It's evolved from working with a local gentleman who has ear savers, we have those now. We have some hand sanitizer as well. Everything, everything under the sun, from booties to gloves to just to goggles, and everything we imported, which is kind of cool, has to go through a thorough FDA process and make sure everything receives its clearances. We have had some items that looked a little, weren't exactly matching up, so they would get rejected and have to go through a review process. But it was kind of a really cool process to be able to help folks, especially when it was so hard to get surgical masks, just the basics in the beginning. So that's kind of a long answer. Sorry, Nick, to your question.
No, don't worry.
We are a freight forwarding company that's like I said, that's evolved, and we do even some special projects from working with different more like we call them kitting projects, where different organizations will reach out to us and say, hey, we have like these 20 items, can you organize them for us together and ship them out to our different locations? So one day we might be moving freight, next day we're helping the warehouse organize items into kits, and it's pretty exciting because the thing I like about it, Ann and Nick, is you don't have to have a logistics or supply chain background. It's good to have one, but we have folks that come from the IT side of things, from accounting. I myself come from just general management was my degree. I don't even think those exist anymore, but I went to Penn State Barron and got a degree in general management, and first started off in human resources. and really enjoyed it. Was the CEO's assistant that moved into HR, and then I actually had left the company and just returned back earlier this year. And that's the best thing about the company is, like Jim said, there's always open doors for those that want to come back, and we work on whatever special project is going on at the time. You never know, so it's pretty exciting. So again, sorry for my long answer, but we have just so much excitement going on.
That's great. So just to clarify, Logistics Plus takes a product, particularly in a lot of what's happening right now, protective gear for COVID-19, and you're distributing to specific entities that are purchasing it from you.
Correct. Yeah. We don't manufacture it. We procure it, whether it's locally or even overseas, and then make sure it's distributed here.
Right. So you're a distribution company. Very good. So what do you say in your role right now is your biggest responsibility? What do you spend most of your time on?
Honestly, is just connecting with folks, making sure that they have the PPE that they need. Especially in the beginning, it really was challenging because it was no one had PPE available. Now it's pretty much readily available everywhere. But letting folks know that, especially here in Erie, we can get their PPE to them within minutes or hours, whatever's necessary. But the majority of our time right now is just following up with previous customers, reaching out to newer customers. We have folks, like I said, all throughout the U.S. So we have folks every day that drive in from Ohio or New York that come right here to Union Station. And the cool thing about that is we're working with their neighborhoods and their chambers of commerce and their local hospitals, and letting them know that, hey, if you need this PPE, we can get it to you rather quickly. So majority of our time is spent filling orders, of course, and then of course reaching out, making sure folks know we still have the PPE that they might need and how quick that we can get it to them.
Gotcha. And PPE, acronym for those of us that don't understand.
You got it. Sorry, I gotta say that. I gotta break it down. Personal protective equipment.
Yeah, that's
from masks to face shields to the hand sanitizer, gloves, all of that. Yeah, thank you, Nick. I always slide by that.
Yeah, we live in a world of acronyms without a doubt. So that's super important, especially folks who are dealing with the pandemic. So based on some of the things that you do in your day to day, what would you say? What is the most important ability or skill that you have to make you an asset to Logistics Plus?
Oh, from every side of this company, it's one simple thing, is communication. I mean, people, we have folks, like I said, from all different countries, and some folks come to this country and come to our organization and can barely speak English. You have to find a way to communicate. I mean, it to me is a tie-in of communication and organization. And I think those are two simple skills. Yes, they can be refined and retuned as you move on in life, but it's just simple of, okay, just constant communication. Our CEO, like I said, he's a great guy, he's a fun guy, and he just always keeps us on our toes. But we have the beginning of the pandemic, we had these just 8x10 posters that we had all around the building, assume nothing, and people are like, what does that mean? And it's just communicate. I bet you want to say this. No. Hey, Mark, just confirming. This shipment's supposed to arrive at this day. What exactly is on those pallets? Oh gosh, I didn't realize that. Let me reach out to Jessica, make sure she knows. Okay, now let me call Aaron, make sure he knows. It's just constant communication. And even if it's great to have smartphones and laptops and all these different devices, but even just writing things down, it's just having your notes ready with you at all times, whether it's on your iPad or your phone or your just a piece of paper. But most importantly, communication. You can't assume the other person across the desk from you or on the phone is understanding it the way you are. Just like I'm assuming this morning about the PPE, so I should have done that.
So not only are you dealing with a language barrier because you guys are worldwide, but you're also dealing with communication right across the desk. That's very interesting. So let me ask you this. You said you had mentioned a little bit about your degree. You have a 4-year degree in management. Mm-hmm. Is that 4-year degree required for what you're doing right now? How does Logistics Plus work with that education?
And that's a great question, Nick, because again, our CEO as a truck driver, like you said, is an advanced degree. As a degree or an advanced degree helpful? Of course it is, but it's just the hard work. He said if you can communicate if you're willing to be the plus in logistics plus, as we say, and do something different every day and work your tail off, that's all that matters. I mean, it's so great now to have, supply chain, degree, kind of that field and have those degrees. I mean, that's helpful because it's certain parts of our organization, such as accounting, obviously help to have a degree there. On the IT side, a lot of our developers, obviously they have advanced degrees, and that's helpful there. But for just the everyday basics of the core of what we do, moving freight, overall project management, sure, it could help, but as long as you have an open mind and you're willing to, make sure you're putting, you're organized and you can communicate, we can teach anything.
That's awesome. And Anna's going to make an announcement right now. She's going to throw a link to Logistics Plus, your website. So if you guys want to check that out, but I want to go back, Julie, to what you were talking about with your drivers. So first off, tell us how many drivers roughly Logistics Plus has there in Erie, and a CDL or a commercial driver's license. What is that? I imagine you have some staff that have those.
Right. Well, and the thing with us is we have, and you're right on the CDL side. We originally, when we started off, we didn't have any drivers. We had worked with different freight forwarding, as a freight forwarder, working with different trucking companies. So we still have an arm of our organization that has truck drivers, but they're not necessarily Logistics Plus truck drivers. Gotcha. But that's something that we come across all the time is that CDL. As people have said before, they're a dime a dozen. No way. Right now, it's challenging, for folks to acquire their CDL, and I'm thankful here that we have some local organizations that are working on that, because it's a great, family sustaining wage, a great way to make an income. There's a lot of truck drivers. People say, "Oh gosh, I'll be on the road for a week at a time." Not necessarily. There's a lot of even just down and backs that that are available, and that's what we like, is working with different forwarding, as a freight forwarder and different working with trucking lines. There are opportunities there that are out there, and maybe one day again we'll have some truck drivers here with us. But right now, like I said, we have an arm that works on it, but we could always there's so many trucking companies that are constantly out there hiring, and even other organizations that may not be a trucking company, but that need drivers. I mean, it really is an occupation that's worth looking into, because the opportunity to earn a solid income is really there.
Definitely. And there's different classes for those of you in the audience. There's different classes of CDLs, commercial driver's licenses. So you'll have to do a little bit of research on that. But the big tractor trailers require a specific class, and then your triaxles or your dump trucks require a different class. And there's all kind of tiers and whatnot. But if you have aspirations to get into transportation, you would get scooped up in a second. So before we shift over, Julie, to some question and answer from our audience. Mm-hmm. Why don't you share with us a little bit, what do you think is the most interesting thing that you come across about your organization, or something fun about Logistics Plus that you just really enjoy?
The thing that I like the most fun is that, I love it from when I was at the company, 8 years, from my 8 years ago, or just recently, is just the cool factor, as the CEO always says. He sends out a thought for the day every day, and something inspiring, and then some type of cool story of what happened, from one of our offices all throughout. But it's just, you never know what you're going to do next. And I seriously mean that. Like we had these opportunities to assemble face shields, and folks that normally do accounting are helping assemble face shields, saying, "I never thought I'd be doing this." Folks that normally, again, move freight, or folks that are normally IT developers. I mean, it's so cool that there's always, it's like you got to have that helping hand, and I love that, where we'll send out like a, I don't want to say an SOS, but hey, this department is short today. Can somebody go over and help out for a little bit? And people say, "Oh, yep, let me tie off this loose end. I'll go help for an hour." It's just so cool to see everyone have a real, kind of camaraderie. It's this teamwork that is just, it's inspiring. And it's something that I loved back then, and I love that it has not gone away, where if some department needs help, we're all there to help each other out. And that's always, the cool part. I mean, you would never think that you'd see some of these, again, folks that are from the accounting side, working in the warehouse assembling face shields. It's like, nope, that's what we do. Developers, I mean, just everybody getting together to help each other out. It's just always, like we call it, the plus in Logistics Plus, and I think that's pretty cool.
That certainly is. And that teamwork component, it exists in every company. every company it's essential with Paramount. Blast back 20 years ago, that really wasn't like that. 30 years ago really wasn't like that, but now the collaboration and team effort really is paramount. So I'm going to speak to the audience now. We have some folks who are going to ask some questions to you, Julie, and I'm going to turn it over to Ann. We already have a question. So everybody on the audience, if you have a question for Julie, do you want to ask specifically, you would click on the little question mark. That's a question and answer, and we're going to open this up to question and answer. So Ann, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. And thank you, Julie. Our first question that we have is thinking about our seniors in high school. What's one piece of advice you would give them from what you have learned?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a tough question. And I think one piece of advice, I can think when I was a senior in high school and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and wasn't sure my career path for, I think I started off wanting to be a teacher and changed it up, is to always believe in yourself. I think that's the most important thing. Don't doubt yourself. I mean, you might say, you know what, I thought I want to do this, but maybe go with your gut and always believe in yourself. I hear just so many, seniors or even juniors, just folks I'm talking to saying, I don't know what I want to do. I'm not good enough to do that. No way. Don't think that. You can't. You got to always believe in yourself, because that fire is deep down in there. Maybe, a little buried, but it's down in there, and the possibilities are endless. And like, that's why I love having a company such as Logistics Plus, because you get inspired to do something, that sometimes takes you out of your comfort zone. And you're like, wow, I really love this. But I think you got to make sure that, again, you always believe in yourself. That's key.
I love that. And I agree. Next question. How old do you need to be employed with your company? And maybe I'll expand on that a little bit. If you could talk about just entry-level positions and how someone who would want to get a job with the Logistics Plus, what that might look like. Right.
I think, what we did, we have internship programs available. Usually we hope folks are, like when we do the college internships, making sure that folks are getting credit, that, freshmen going to college or older. Every now and then we may employ a high school student to help out if there's some extra projects that are out there and that are needed. We had some folks this summer that we had a special projects, socially distant kind of warehouse setup that we had, and it was like, employees with their children that maybe they're coming into work and their child was coming to help out. But again, making sure that they're at least 17, 18 is always a positive thing for us, especially. We've had some folks evolve into working in the warehouse and driving the forklift and what have you, and that always you have to go through a certification process to do things like that.
Awesome.
Expand on that a little bit, Julie. I'm sorry. Expand on that. You said there's a certification you would need in order to operate a forklift?
Right. And it's a simple process to go through. It's like a basic training where you watch the video, and then there's actually hands-on training where you're going through it, like, I wouldn't say an obstacle course, but similar to that, about maneuvering, forward, backwards with a forklift. Because to me it looks cool and exciting and something fun to do, but it's so serious, because it still is. It's an operating. It's equipment that it could hurt someone or you could hurt yourself. And I think about even just this week, we're in the warehouse and I needed to get a box off the way top shelf, and I said, all right, who can do the forklift? Well, I can. I said, no, who has a certification? Oh, just you. Okay, so here we go. And that's one thing that you can't just hop in, just like, okay, something spilled, I'll mop it up. No. Forklift wise, we're very, very strict on that. We have to be, just make sure that, those that have it, that went through like a training process are the only ones that can drive the forklift. And it is kind of cool to see, because like I said, we had about 10 of us, working in the warehouse, and I just shouted, who's okay to use it? And it was only 1 out of 10 of us. But everybody knew I can't touch it until I, approved and considered certified.
All right, thank you. Another question. What is a starting salary for an entry-level job?
That, I had to double check that with HR. It depends on the position itself. And don't quote me on this, because again, I'm not on the HR side. any longer, but it varies. I mean, these are not minimum wage jobs by far. That I can say, because especially that you're really putting your time and effort into it, because logistics is a 24/7 business, especially when we're dealing with folks in other time zones, especially in other countries, where sometimes you might be up a little bit later than you planned because that's when your customer or your client is up. So, I mean, I think they do vary, but these are not, like I said, people say, well, is it entry-level minimum wage? No, these are definitely not.
Thank you. Thank you. And we recognize that not all of our speakers might know the salaries and starting, that's not necessarily something you would know. But can you speak a little bit about, maybe have you seen it, or is there a lot of room for advancement and moving up the ladder at Logistics Plus?
Oh, definitely. There is. I mean, folks might start off at like an entry-level assistant type position. I mean, I think of me 8 years ago. Oh, at this point, more than 8 years ago. Actually, what is it? Gosh, now for me, it's almost like 12 years ago that when I started. And think about that. And I just started off as the assistant to the CEO. Then we sat down and we're working on different projects. And he said, it seems like you have like an HR interest. I said, I do. He said, well, why don't you see what you can do in HR? And then eventually I became the HR manager. I mean, there's always opportunities where some folks might start off as a logistics specialist and they're just learning how logistics works and how freight is moved. And the next thing you know, maybe a couple years later, they're managing the North American division and managing 10 or 12 folks that are logistics specialists. So if you have the drive and if you have kind of that overall just strong communication, I think the opportunities really are endless. And I think of even somebody that was just helping us out this summer, started off at just special working on projects and had an interest in the warehouse side, and now is driving a forklift, unloading trucks and loading trucks back up. And managing the inventory side of it. Just something that he said, I never thought I would do this. I went to school for more of the sports management side of things, and that was more my field, I thought. But I came here, I saw the teamwork, like you said, Nick. There's the camaraderie is here, and hey, let's give it a shot. So to me, I joke sometimes and say it's like Disney World. I mean, you never know what that the possibilities are there, and it's just talking to your supervisor. Our CEO is very hands-on, and he's always going around and, hey, what are you thinking? What's cooking? What do you know? And you never know what appears. I mean, I think of something cool years ago, where it's another cool story where one of our guys, he was a assistant, like an accounting clerk, helping out in the accounting department, and the CEO came to him and said, hey, any chance you have a passport? He said, I do. And he said, it's active? Yeah, not expired. Okay. He said, hold that thought. And he came by a couple of us and he said, hey, we're going to send Brad over here to England. I said, what? For what reason? And he said, well, we have this package. It needs to be hand delivered. And it's a very important package for General Electric. And it only weighs 10 pounds. But we need to make sure it gets there. And we're afraid because it's this big, it's going to get lost. Brad, he went home, packed his bags, went over to England. He didn't stay for a week or a month. He basically stayed for, I think, 24 hours and then came right back. But that to him was like, wow, it was pretty cool. His only job was to hold that package and make sure it got there and deliver it to the plant. So
what was in it?
You would never think, and he's like, I'm just in accounting. Like, but Brad, you have a passport and you can go. So
really, we gotta know what was in the package.
Well, to be honest, it was literally it was this part that was needed for a locomotive that for some reason I guess they did not have over there, and it shut down like a whole line because it was like one simple part that was missing. It was crazy, and you would think at first I said, well, why can't we just send it over? Just me not thinking. It's like, Julie, you know how little boxes might get lost. Not saying it's going to happen, but we can't take the chance. They need this now. And there Brad went. Literally went home to change, came back, grabbed his bag, and he was off. So cool things like that happen. You never know. But I just love that there's so many opportunities at Logistics Plus, and to see how it's grown even from when I first started, it's just amazing. And I think I'm excited to have a company like this here in Erie. And we do have internships. Tracy Coffey is our HR director, and she coordinates a lot. And we have another gentleman, Jeremy Chafee, who works with local colleges and universities, and have folks coming in and just kind of learning the ropes. And we do have folks that just came in as an intern to, let me check it out. Then all of a sudden said, yeah, I want to stay. And they've been here for some months, some, years. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are the stories you love to hear.
Yeah.
They came in as an intern and they're still there.
Still there.
I actually have a question based on something you had said earlier. You mentioned like potentially you had been interested in teaching and now obviously you work in management. Can you speak a little bit to your journey and what influenced you and made you kind of land on the pathway and the decisions that you made?
Right. I mean, I thought, because my aunt, I had an aunt as a teacher, I have friends that are teachers. I'm like, I think I want to be a teacher. And I did some shadowing and I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. I think, I might be better suited doing something else. I didn't know what else it would be. And then I had worked actually for a local company that's no longer in operation at the time. My mom had worked there and they said, why don't you come and just help out in the office? Then I'm like, okay, I'm working in a business. This is kind of cool. And then that's when I, changed my career path and it went from education, to sliding over to management when I was at Penn State Barron, and thought, you know what? All right, let me take the general management path, because at least I'm not sure what I want to do, but it sounds like I want to do something in business. And then as I started leaving Barron, the opportunity for human resources came up. So I didn't have enough to have a minor, but took some classes and said, okay, I like people. I like to help people. I like business. So let's try that path. And that's kind of what took me down that path. And then, at Logistics Plus, it wasn't like a exactly direct, HR, a molded HR position, like a cookie cutter, like here's your HR position. Because we're such a unique organization, it was kind of a little bit of this and that, where sure, I was HR, but again, you just roll with it and work on different projects. Like I mentioned, lately, if we need help assembling face shields, we're doing it. We need help, on kitting projects and adding items to boxes, we're doing it. So that's kind of, for me, it was just, I think just starting off, just talking to folks and just different folks. I think that's where everything you're doing is just so exciting, because it's just hearing from someone's career path and why did you choose it? What do you think? Here's what I'm doing. What do you think? Well, I can't tell you, what to do, but I have these suggestions. And it's almost like a mentoring thing, pairing people up to have those conversations. And I think that's what helps more than anything is, like I have people in my life just saying, why don't you try this or try that? And just kind of talking it through, or even shadowing.
Yeah. And I like that because, those stories tell us it's okay if you change your mind. And Absolutely. It's okay if you pivot.
Right. That's the important thing, is you got to do something, as I was told years ago, you got to do something that makes you happy. And if you're not, then why do it? And I've seen folks in different parts of my life that are just miserable with what they're doing. Like, why? Well, sort of putting food on the table, not really. Then why do it? Do something that makes you happy. Life's too short.
Right. Another good piece of advice for our seniors out there. All right. Well, Nick, I will pass it back to you.
So we want to. Yeah, thanks, Dan. We want to respect Julie's time. I'm sure she's very busy. It's a lot of deliveries to be made for the current pandemic. So, Julie, I want to say thank you. Thank you for connecting with our kiddos today. If you had any parting word with anybody who's going to be watching this recording, or the current attendees that are on, about just making choices in terms of their career, what would you say to them?
I still go back to what I said earlier, is you gotta, anyway, go with your gut and always believe in yourself. But I mean, we're so lucky, especially now, people say, oh, pandemic wise, things have changed for the worse. I don't think so. I mean, now you can go, and whether it's watch YouTube videos about different career paths or connect like we are here today. It's just, there's so many people that you can reach out to and just ask questions. And there's so many different opportunities. I mean, whether it's YouTube or even how the internet's evolved since I was your age, there's so many resources out there for you. Take advantage of those. That's the best advice I can pass along. And just for what it's worth, my email address is just my first name, Julie, and thanks for the slide there, /Slomski@logisticsplus.net, all one word, and plus is spelled out. Feel free to reach out. Again, Julie.Slomski@logisticsplus.
I'll make an announcement. I'll put that in the chat there.
Perfect.
Already got it.
Oh, thank you.
In there.
Feel free to reach out. Any questions, or you want to come check things out, I'd be happy to do that. But I mean, I'm here as a resource. Any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them.
And thank you for all the efforts that you're doing and your company is doing during this pandemic. It's imperative. So, Julie, thank you so much, and for all of our attendees out there, thank you for connecting. This recording is going to be posted on our website. It'll be under the recordings portion, and yeah, thank you, Julie, so much, and thank you for all the attendees.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and stay safe.